first time I noticed something was wrong was when Michael didn't answer my texts. Not unusual at first. He was always getting caught up in work, the kind of person who'd lose track of hours without a second thought. But when his usual "sorry long day" reply didn't come by midnight, a flicker of unease crept in. It wasn't like him to go completely silent. The next day, his absence grew heavier. His phone went straight to voicemail. His desk at work was untouched, and no one seemed to have seen him since the previous afternoon. By evening, my worry had morphed into panic. The final thread unraveled when I came home to find the apartment eerily quiet and Michael's favorite jacket missing from its hook by the door. On the coffee table sat a single sheet of paper, the handwriting unmistakably his. "They found me. Find the bridge." The words shouldn't have made sense, but the weight behind them chilled me to the bone. Michael wasn't someone who left cryptic notes. He was steady, rational, and unshakable, the anchor in my chaos. Now, the idea of them finding him hinted at something far beyond my comprehension. The bridge. It could have meant anything, but my mind went to Wickstone Bridge, an abandoned overpass that had loomed over our city since the early 1900s. We'd visited it once, years ago, after a late-night dinner. Michael had joked about the ghost stories tied to the bridge, whispers of strange shadows and disembodied voices, tales that had turned it into a local urban legend. I had laughed with him at the time, dismissing it as nonsense. Now I wasn't so sure. The wind bit sharply as I drove through the empty streets, heading toward the old bridge. The city felt quieter than usual, as though it, too, was holding its breath. The narrow road to Wickstone was lined with skeletal trees whose bare branches clawed at the sky, their shadows long and distorted under the dim streetlights. When I arrived, the sight of the bridge was somehow worse than I remembered. The iron structure loomed high above, its once grand arches now rusted and misshapen, like the bones of a forgotten giant. The air seemed heavier here, thick with an unnatural stillness. Even the usual city sounds, the distant hum of traffic, the murmur of life, had faded into silence. I stepped out of the car, clutching my flashlight. My breath came in shallow puffs that lingered in the cold air. I didn't know what I was expecting to find, but every instinct screamed that Michael was somewhere close, that this place held answers. As I approached the bridge, the wind shifted, carrying with it a faint sound. Whispers. The whispers shouldn't have been audible over the wind, yet they were. Faint, melodic, and utterly unplaceable, they drifted through the air, weaving an invisible thread that pulled me closer. My heart hammered against my ribs, my hand tightening around the flashlight as I stepped under the shadow of the bridge. Beneath the arch, the world felt wrong. The space seemed larger than it should have been, as though the bridge extended far beyond its physical boundaries. Shadows danced across the concrete walls in patterns I couldn't trace, shifting in ways that defied the static light of my flashlight. "Michael?" I called, the word breaking the oppressive silence. It echoed faintly before being swallowed by the air. The whispers grew louder in response, their tones rising and falling like a language just out of reach. Ahead, the path beneath the bridge forked into two dark tunnels. Neither had been there before. The bridge was supposed to be a straightforward underpass. Yet now, these paths extended into shadowy labyrinths, each one pulsing faintly with an otherworldly glow. One glimmered faintly green, the other deep violet, their lights casting strange hues on the walls around them. I hesitated, the note crumpled in my pocket, pressing against my leg like a reminder. Find the bridge, but which path? As if sensing my indecision, the whispers shifted, their tones growing sharper, more insistent. From the green-lit path, they rose in a mournful wail, like the cries of someone lost. From the violet, they took on a darker tone. Calm, yet unnervingly familiar, like a voice I should have known, but didn't. The flashlight flickered, I stumbled back, my pulse racing as the shadows stretched unnaturally toward me. The whispers grew louder, forming patterns I couldn't understand, but felt in my chest, a rhythmic pull, a calling. My body moved before my mind decided, and I stepped into the green-lit tunnel. The air inside was dense, pressing against my skin like water. Each step echoed unnaturally, the sound twisting into something that didn't belong to me. The tunnel's walls shimmered faintly, shifting between solid concrete and something softer, almost flesh-like. My flashlight revealed glimpses of shapes carved into the walls, symbols and patterns that seemed to writhe when I stared too long. Halfway through, the whispers stopped. The silence was deafening, pressing in on me from every direction. I turned in a circle, heart pounding, but the way back was gone. The tunnel had transformed into a corridor of reflective surfaces, each one warping my reflection. My face stared back at me from a dozen angles, but it wasn't entirely mine. There was something hollow in the eyes, something too wide in the grin of some reflections. I reached out to touch the nearest wall, and it rippled like water. A single word shattered the silence. My name. The voice was unmistakable. Michael? My own voice cracked as I stumbled forward, searching for him, the rippling reflections distorted further, shapes moving behind them. I wasn't alone anymore. The rippling walls closed in as I moved forward, their shifting surfaces giving way to something stranger. Figures. At first, they were shadows, just silhouettes dancing within the reflections. Then, as I stepped deeper into the corridor, they became clearer, more distinct. They weren't quite human. Two groups emerged on either side of the passage, their forms cloaked in shimmering light. On my left, the figures glowed faintly gold, their bodies draped in ethereal robes that seemed to dissolve into mist at the edges. Their faces were obscured, but that their presence exuded a quiet intensity, as if they carried the weight of countless lifetimes. On my right, the other group gleamed silver, their features sharper, their eyes piercing as they watched me with an almost predatory focus. Their movements were precise, deliberate, as if each shift of their bodies carried meaning. The whispers returned, but this time they weren't formless. Words crystallized in my mind, their meanings clear even though no voice spoke them aloud. "You are bound to the bridge." The golden figures stepped forward. Their leader, a tall, faceless figure whose robes seemed to ripple like sunlight, raised a hand in a gesture that felt both welcoming and commanding. "You are the keeper," they said, their voice resonating like a chorus of bells. "Through your bond, the balance can be restored." I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could speak, the silver figures moved. Their leader, a slender figure whose metallic glow seemed to cut through the air, tilted their head, the movement unnervingly smooth. "Do not listen to their lies," the silver figure said, their voice sharp and cold, like steel scraping stone. "They seek to twist your bond, to take from you what they cannot create." I staggered back, the weight of their words pressing down on me. "I don't understand," I said, my voice trembling. "What bond? What do you mean by restore the balance?" The golden leader extended their hand toward me. "Your partner chose you for a reason. Through love, through trust, the bond you share bridges worlds. It is the key to ending the conflict." The silver leader sneered, their luminous eyes narrowing. "Love is a weakness they exploit. Your bond is not a gift, it is a chain. Sever it, and you will be free." The air between the two groups grew heavy, crackling with unseen energy as they stared each other down. I felt caught between them, my head pounding as their words fought for space in my mind. The idea that Michael, steady, rational Michael, was part of this, that our relationship was somehow tied to ancient, warring clans, was impossible. Yet, deep down, I couldn't deny the pull of their claims. "Where is he?" I demanded. my voice rising above the whispers. "Where is Michael?" The Golden Leader's voice softened. "He is trapped between worlds, caught in the fracture caused by their greed." They gestured toward the silver figures. "Help us restore balance, and you will save him." The Silver Leader scoffed, their voice dripping with disdain. "A lie. He is beyond saving, and they know it. But you, Keeper, you can still be free. Break the bond, and you will sever their hold over you." The words struck like a blow, the implications slicing through my thoughts. My love for Michael was the only thing keeping me steady in this surreal nightmare, yet here it was being turned against me. Before I could respond, the corridor trembled, the rippling walls warping violently. The air grew thicker, pressing against my chest as the golden and silvery figures retreated, their gazes locked on me. "Choose," they said in unison, their voices colliding in a discordant echo. The corridor dissolved, replaced by an endless expanse of shimmering light. I stood alone now, the golden and silver figures gone, their voices echoing faintly in the distance. The air around me hummed with energy, and as I took a tentative step forward, the ground beneath my feet shifted, each step creating ripples that spread outward like water. Ahead, a bridge appeared, its edges shrouded in mist. It was unlike any structure I'd seen before, an intricate web of light and shadow that seemed to pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat. It beckoned me forward, its glow both inviting and ominous. As I stepped onto the bridge, a voice called out, Michael's voice. "Come closer," he said, his tone calm, yet tinged with urgency. "I need you." I broke into a run, the sound of his voice filling me with desperate hope. The bridge seemed to stretch endlessly, but I pushed forward, ignoring the whispers that began to creep into my mind. "He's not what he seems. You are the key." The whispers grew louder, and with them came visions, fragments of memories that weren't mine. I saw Michael standing on this very bridge, his expression strained as he argued with the golden and silver figures. I saw his hand outstretched toward me, his face alight with both love and fear. And then I saw him step into the light, his body dissolving into the shimmering expanse. The visions faded, leaving me breathless. When I looked up, Michael was there, standing at the center of the bridge. He looked exactly as I remembered, his dark eyes filled with an intensity that made my chest ache. "You found me," he said, his voice barely audible. I reached for him, but my hand stopped short, meeting an invisible barrier. "Michael," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. "What's happening? What is this?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "This is where it all began, where it has to end. They need you to choose." The barrier between us flickered, revealing the golden and silver figures standing behind him. The bridge pulsed beneath my feet, its glow growing brighter as their voices rose. "Your love can save him," the golden figure said. "Your love will destroy you," countered the silver figure. Michael's gaze locked onto mine. "Whatever you decide," he said, his voice steady. "I trust you." The bridge trembled, its light splitting into fragments. The air was heavy with expectation, and I realized with a sinking certainty that my next step would determine everything. The bridge groaned beneath my feet, its light pulsating erratically, as if responding to my hesitation. Michael's figure flickered, his edges fraying like an old photograph exposed to fire. Behind him, the golden and silver figures loomed in their spectral glow, their forms growing more distinct, more demanding. "Choose," they intoned, their voices splitting the air like thunder. I took a trembling step forward, the weight of the decision pressing down on me like an invisible hand. The whispers surrounded me, 1,000 murmured truths and lies that blurred into a deafening roar. The bridge wasn't just a place, it was alive, vibrating with the echoes of every soul who had ever crossed it. Michael reached out, his hand pressed against the invisible barrier. His eyes, once a haven of calm, now reflected a quiet desperation. "You can't stay here," he said, his voice steady but strained. "This place, it feeds on what we are. You have to end it." The golden figure stepped closer, their presence radiating a warmth that felt deceptive. "He is bound to the fracture. Save him, and balance will return. Your bond is the bridge. It can mend what was broken." The silver figure's glow sharpened, their voice cutting through the air. "Lies. If you cling to the bond, you will sacrifice yourself. Sever it, and you both go free. Trust in the choice that frees you from their grasp." The whispers surged, becoming words now, fragments of memories, truths that weren't mine but felt deeply personal. "You are the key. The bridge was always you." My chest tightened as I realized the choice wasn't just about Michael. It was about the nature of our connection, the bond we had built through years of trust, love, and vulnerability. Was it strong enough to endure? Or was it a chain, binding us to something far beyond our comprehension? The bridge shuddered violently, the light fracturing into shards that sliced through the mist. My vision blurred, the air thick with tension as the golden and silver figures pressed closer, their forms crackling with energy. Michael's voice cut through the chaos. "No matter what you choose, I trust you. I'll always trust you." His words struck like lightning, igniting a clarity I hadn't felt until that moment. The bond wasn't a chain. It was a lifeline, one forged in moments of quiet, understanding, and unspoken promises. It was the only thing anchoring us to the truth amidst the lies that surrounded us. I closed my eyes, shutting out the golden glow, the silver sheen, the whispers that clawed at my mind. I reached out, not for the figures, but for Michael, the person, the soul at the heart of it all. "I choose us," I said, my voice trembling but resolute. The air around me rippled, and for a moment, the world held its breath. The barrier between us shattered, and Michael's hand met mine, warm and solid and real. The bridge erupted in a blinding light, the golden and silver figures dissolving into streaks of energy that spiraled upward, their cries of triumph and defeat blending into one final, haunting note. The light receded, leaving us standing in silence. The bridge was gone, replaced by the cold concrete of the underpass. The mist had lifted, revealing the city skyline in the distance. Michael's hand was still in mine, his grip firm as he looked at me with a mixture of relief and awe. "You did it," he whispered. "You brought us back." I nodded, the weight of what had happened settling over me like a shadow. The whispers were gone, but their echo lingered in the back of my mind, a reminder of the choice I had made and the cost of it. The world felt the same, yet different, as though the veil between realities had thinned, leaving us closer to something vast and incomprehensible. As we walked away from the bridge, I glanced back one last time. The underpass stood empty, its arches silent and still. But deep in the shadows, a faint glimmer of light pulsed, a quiet heartbeat that seemed to echo the bond we had forged, a bond that would forever tether us to the unknown. The night was eerily quiet, but for the first time, it felt like a silence we could endure. Together,